Today we're taking a look at the LG G8. Now this phone's been getting a lot of hate recently, and I don't think it really deserves it. I mean, it's not the market king in any one category, but it does just about everything really well. Is that enough to earn your hard-earned cash? That's the question I'm going to try to help you answer today, so let's go ahead and dive in. So I used the LG G8 for about 2 weeks as my everyday device, or daily driver as it's often called here on YouTube, and I bought it with my own money, brand new from swappa.com for just over $400. Before we even get into what I like and what I didn't like about the phone, if $400 is the top of your price range, you can go ahead and stop the video, head on over to Swappa, and purchase the G8. So starting off with the good, the screen. Is it Samsung Galaxy S10 level? No, but very few devices are. And with that said, the screen looks beautiful, viewing angles are good, gets nice and bright when I'm outside. I have absolutely no complaints. Content is beautiful on this display. And next up, performance, which you guys probably saw coming. It has a Snapdragon 855, so apps load up really quick. Switching apps is also quick. The phone feels very smooth and fluid overall. It's not crazy snappy like a Xiaomi or a OnePlus device, but it's more than fast enough. Feels really nice and smooth. Next up, LG Skin. Now, full disclosure, I always install Nova Launcher and SwiftKey on my phone, so I can't speak specifically to LG's keyboard or launcher, but the things you have to interact with are really well done. Things up here like the toggles, easy access to the auto brightness. I like having that brightness slider there on the bottom of the screen, and even the notch. If you guys remember on Xiaomi phones, there's a weird bug where you don't see the notification icons with phones that have a notch now. But that's clearly not an issue here with LG. They did a really good job here with the notch and improving their software experience overall. Next up, the fingerprint sensor. This one's kind of tough to show you guys because, the fingerprint sensor is there on the back to flipping my phone over. Just not a reliable way to show you guys this, but it's LG. Fingerprint sensor is accurate, it's fast, it's reliable. Not much else to say there. Typical LG quality in the fingerprint sensor department. Next up, audio. Man, the audio on this phone is incredible. The stereo speakers aren't quite as good as something like a Mate 20X or a Google Pixel 3, but that's made up for by the fact that it has a headphone jack and has a quad DAC. If you don't know what a quad DAC is, all you need to know is that it makes your music sound better. I mean, music coming through the headphone jack sounds the best of anything I've tried in recent memory, probably since the last LG that I've tried personally. The audio on this phone sounds awesome. And despite not being quite as good as the Pixel 3 or Mate 20X on the stereo speakers, they do sound good, they get nice and loud, they're very well balanced. Audio on this phone is incredible. Another thing I really like is the always-on display. You don't get the weather info like a Pixel, but you get your icon badges for your notifications, you get your battery percentage, date, and time obviously, and throughout the day, the always-on display will shift down the phone or up the phone, side to side a little bit too, to make sure you don't get any burn-in with that OLED display. So great implementation there by LG. And the last thing that I like is the camera. Now, if you don't know anything about LG cameras, they were the first manufacturer to put a wide-angle lens on their phones a few years ago. You can see here at the top, we've got a similar Samsung-looking UI for the wide-angle versus the normal lens. And the point-and-shoots on this camera are not quite as good as a Huawei, Mate or P series, or a Pixel 3, but in my opinion, that's balanced out by their awesome manual mode or pro mode, whatever you want to call it. Way more feature-rich than anything else out there on the market, period. Huawei's making progress. They're gaining ground in their manual modes against LG here, but LG is still the best on the market in this category. So if you're a novice like me and you don't really understand what's going on here in the manual mode, then this isn't really a big selling point for you. But if you know what you're doing, you can take some absolutely mind-blowing shots here on this camera on the back. So take the camera hate that you're seeing on this phone with a grain of salt. The point and shoot, no, it's not S10, P series, Mate series, Pixel series level, but it is still good, and the Pro mode blows those other phones out of the water as far as features go. Front-facing camera also looks good for those of you who like to take selfies out there, and that's about all I have to say about that one because I don't take a lot of selfies personally. Now moving into the less fun stuff, what I didn't like. Starting things off, the glass back. I know a lot of people love glass backs on phones. I'm just not one of them. Glass scratches so easily, I feel like I have to put a case on the phone, and I hate cases. I would have greatly preferred a plastic back or ceramic back for what that's worth, but this is obviously a big personal preference. The next thing I didn't like is the charging speed. There's nothing I can really show you here to demonstrate this point, but the phone has fast charging. It just felt like it charged slower than my Pixel, Xiaomi, Samsung's, OnePlus, you get the idea. It just felt like it charged slow for a fast charging phone. The final thing I didn't like about the phone, the battery. The battery's fine, you get 5 to 6 hours screen on time. The phone is flush, as you've probably seen a lot of people talking about, no camera bump, but it's still less than 4,000 milliamp hours, which means I have to call it out. The battery life is good enough, but I think the battery should be bigger when you're spending this much money on a phone. Alright, conclusion time. Now a couple of odds and ends. I didn't try out the crazy hand motion gestures that LG's been advertising, and I'm also not a fan of face unlock, so I did not try those two features out. Beyond that, the notch is neither good or bad. It's there, that's bad. LG's implementation of it's pretty good, and the notch is pretty small, and they made good use of that room. They put a good speaker and a good camera there, so it's neither good nor bad for me. Overall, I think LG really put out a great package here, especially if you're okay with going to a site like Swappa. You can find this phone at a great value for around $400, brand new, sealed in the box. And at that price, it's an insane value, and I can easily recommend this phone. And for those of you that have been asking me, should I get the G8 or the Pixel 3a or 3a XL? It really depends on your use case. I'll have a video on that phone coming up soon. Check the channel if you're watching this after it came out. But the Pixel 3a has a great point-and-shoot camera and a better battery life. The G8 has better audio, a better pro mode on its camera, and obviously a much faster and snappier experience. That does it for this one though. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.